Before we begin the video, I'd just like to quickly remind everyone that my film Voyage into the Night is currently out now for streaming on Amazon Prime and Vimeo on demand. So do check it out if you'd like to, and leave a few thoughts, questions and all that on the previous video before we go ahead and do our Q&A. Anyways, on to the actual video. So I don't think I've ever actually said this publicly on the channel, but my favorite superhero is Batman, followed very closely by Wolverine, but that's a conversation for another day. But yes, Batman is my favorite superhero. I love the comics, the cartoon series, the animated films, the video games, and of course, a lot of the live action films, even some of the bad ones. And one of my favorite aspects of the character is the duality between the Bruce Wayne side and the Batman side, and how these two sides of the characters sort of play off of each other. And of course, we've seen this duality on display in pretty much all of his films. We've had many incredible Bruce Wayne scenes and even more big, brave, and bold Batman scenes, many of which have been labeled some of the greatest in superhero movie history. However, some of my favorite moments in these films and this collection of Batman stories are the smaller, more subtle throwaway moments that hardcore Batman fans I think would notice and really appreciate. So since people always talk about Bruce Wayne making that leap of faith or Batman beating up a bunch of guys in a warehouse, I wanted to share with you guys two incredible smaller moments that for me completely define the character that exists in this grey area between Bruce Wayne and Batman. Two smaller moments that for me not only encapsulate why I love this character and these films without ever having to see Batman in his bat suit, but seeing how Batman bleeds into Bruce Wayne and how Bruce Wayne bleeds into Batman. It's this moment.
Bruce, this is Harvey Dent.
The famous Bruce Wayne. Rachel's told me everything about you.
I certainly hope not. So let's put a couple tables together.
I'm not sure that they'll let us.
Oh, they should. I own the place.
And this moment. Now, why do I feel these two scenes are so great? Well, I believe that they show off two of Batman's greatest superpowers without us even seeing them in action. Superpower number one, of course, is
I'm rich.
Batman is rich. He has resources. And we have seen this kind of bit done in pretty much every Batman film, from Batman Begins all the way to the Snyder Cut and even before that. He is faced with a financial obstacle that would destroy most people, then he casually shrugs it off as something so trivial and inconsequential because he's just so damn rich. However, what I love so much about this particular moment is that not only does he not make a big deal about it, he says it in a way that feels cool and superior without being too belittling. And that for me is Bruce Wayne. This is also yet another example of Christopher Nolan's brilliant use of setup and payoff. Having this new character, Harvey Dent, who's going out with the woman that Bruce Wayne is in love with, emphasize the fact that it was very difficult to get a table at this restaurant, and then we see Bruce Wayne. The guy just straight up runs the show. It's a very satisfying moment because we get to see our Bruce Wayne be Bruce Wayne, but it's also because we get to see him sort of show off a little to this new kid on the block in a very Batman fashion. It's just very cool in my opinion. Now, Batman's other superpower, of course, aside from the wealth and the motivation and the dedication and the drive, is his incredible fight training, his tactician's mind, his perceptiveness as a warrior, which has allowed him to win so many battles, so many physical battles, that is. And it is shown so beautifully in this scene. The guy's losing the fight. He gets knocked into Bruce Wayne, who is already analyzing and breaking down this fight, and then tells the guy exactly how to win. People have made this comparison before, but I have to say that the Bruce Wayne we see in BVS in many ways feels like James Bond. He's very Bond-esque. Snyder really puts him in certain situations that make him feel like a spy. And when you see him in this scene, this man who is arguably the greatest hand-to-hand combat fighter in the DC universe, one of anyway, you know, in this fight club of all places, and you just know that he could take out the entire room if he wanted to. I mean, he kind of literally does later on in the film. And he's just sort of stood there casually in the metaphorical shadow, being really, really cool. And then he makes this face at the end when the guy wins the fight. This classic Batman smirk, this shit-eating grin. For me, this just says so much about the character and shows off his abilities and his knowledge without doing much at all. It makes long-time Batman fans go, oh wow, that was cool. Whilst also making viewers who may not know the character so well also go, oh wow, that was cool. It's like I can be Batman without the mask, without the cape, and I'm still awesome. And the best thing about both of these moments is that you don't need hundreds of millions and loads of CGI to pull it off. They're just these smaller human moments. And for me, they're just as cool as the big set pieces, if not more, because of how small and intimate and detailed and dense they are. For me, what I personally love about these two moments the most, that most people may just see as rather throwaway character bits, it's simply that. They might feel rather unnecessary on the surface level, but for me, these smaller moments that people might not care about as much are the mark of great storytelling. Of course, you can get a good grasp on a character in the big set pieces, when they're put under pressure, when they're forced to make big decisions. But you know that a filmmaker truly cares when they're able to let the character shine through, down to the smallest crevices of the film. Once again, going back to that Bond comparison, some of my favorite moments in Casino Royale are not the big chase sequences, but the smaller character moments within those action sequences. These small casual quips within the conversations and standoffs, which are quite high stakes, pun intended.
I'm sorry. That last hand nearly killed me.
And then, of course, these two scenes, they're just terrific representations of why many of us love Batman. He's really cool without having to try that hard on the surface level. Because deep down, this is someone who cares and tries and truly gives a shit. And yet he's able to create this character, this false mask that is Bruce Wayne, to show off the more casual side, the more nonchalant side. And for me, it's these two sides of the characters that make him so compelling and make these scenes so brilliant.